Our next guest speaker is Congressman David Trone, who represents the 6th District, Maryland. Congressman Trone, good evening.
Hey, good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good.
Good. Well, we've got about 20 minutes. Does that work for you? I've got another event at
Yes.
8 o'clock.
That works. Yes, that works,
Okay.
Congressman.
I'll talk about 10 minutes, and maybe I can give some question and answer. Would that be good?
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Hey, I was actually born in Cheverly, Prince George's County. My mom was a public school teacher. She taught school in Greenbelt. We lived in Hyattsville, but I actually grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania. And then after the farm, my father went bankrupt. I started another company. My company is called Total Wine and More. We have a store in Laurel. Some of you might be familiar with it. And we have another store in Towson. And then I built around the country another 250 some stores. So the company's, luckily, we've been very fortunate. The company's become larger. We have 12,000 team members that work for us. I've always been a progressive Democrat. 75% of the folks that work in the company are full-time, which at retail, as you know, usually 25% are full-time. So people don't get benefits and they get lower pay. But it's quickly clear to me that if I had a team that was full-time with health care, with retirement, with 401, et cetera, disability, everybody stays longer, everybody's happier, and we're more successful together as a team. We also, about 25 years ago, I also banned the box. Banning the box means you stop asking folks if they've been ever arrested. And since then, we've hired over 1,400 returning citizens, people that were formerly incarcerated in the last 7 years. We also put in partner benefits for same-sex marriage about 25 years ago. So I've been a very progressive Democrat in business, but successful in business. And, you know, people sometimes wonder, says, hey, you're successful and wealthy, but they don't remember that when we started off, when we were 11, 12 years old, we didn't even have indoor plumbing. So we didn't start off with much. And then we lost everything when I was 28, then started over. And from then on, I supported my mother and the other siblings after my father left. So that's kind of the background. You ask, you know, why am I in public service? I got into public service. This is my third term in Congress, is a way to stand up for those folks that really don't have a voice, you know, those that are voiceless. And so what I lead Congress on is areas like the addiction crisis. I lost my nephew to a fentanyl overdose. Addiction runs in my family. My dad was an abusive alcoholic. I work on the mental illness. I lead Congress on mental illness. That's also personal to my family, as it is to so many other American families. 1 in 5 families struggles, you know, with mental illness. Last year, you may know, 110,000 Americans died of overdoses. 80% were fentanyl. Over 50,000 Americans died of suicide. And that's 135 every day, and that's, you know, mental illness. So these are two areas that we're losing folks every day, hundreds and hundreds of folks. So that's what I focus on. The areas that I think are really important to me personally, and they're important to Americans, you know, in general. The third area I'm very involved in is the criminal justice system. I've been involved with the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, for over 25 years. And I established their criminal justice center in New York City. In New York City, it's called the Trone Center for Justice and Equality. I have 45 lawyers work there at the Trone Center, working on mandatory minimums, death penalty, solitary confinement, crack cocaine sentencing, disparities, all the things that are wrong about our systemically racist criminal justice system. I was attacked in the criminal justice area myself almost 30 years ago and arrested. And I came out the other end successful. And because I had the dollars to hire good lawyers, and I had the education not to take a plea deal. So that white privilege let me succeed. And then I went on and succeeded in business. And so I made the decision then that if I was successful long term, I would give back to the American Civil Liberties Union, which my head lawyer belonged to. And she encouraged me to help them. So I have. So that's the areas that we really spend a lot of time on. Education. I'm endorsed by the Teachers Association of Maryland, 75,000 teachers. We won their endorsement. We support, we have 100% union rating. So we're being endorsed by all the labor groups around the country, the IBEW, SMART, Steam Fitters, UA, et cetera, et cetera. We have, we're getting endorsements across the board with labor because we have a 100% labor voting record. But one thing about Congress, while I'm a progressive Democrat, I get stuff done. I didn't go here because I need a job. I went here because I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to move America in a better way on mental illness, on addiction, on the criminal justice system, education, medical research. Those are the things that we got to do so much better as a country. And I've been fortunate. I'm able to fund my campaign largely myself, 100%. I don't take PAC money. I don't take lobbyist money. So if I'm successful, I'd be the only U.S. senator not taking PAC money, not taking lobbyist money. And we wonder why, our drug prices are so high. Well, it's because the big pharma, and they're the ones that are leading these issues. So I'm always the one that goes to battle against big pharma. We did an event today up in Baltimore called One Fair Wage to help our waitresses and waiters who are paid $3.63 an hour plus tips. But that means if you don't get any tips, you could make $3.63 an hour. It is outrageous. It is inconceivable. And those are the type of things I stand for, I fight against. But unfortunately, the National Restaurant Association, the other NRA, is pushing the other way. But we're happy to go to battle because we don't take anybody's money. And I can do what I think is right for the folks that are getting the short end of the stick. And that's what our waiters and waitresses are, who are paid a sub-minimum wage, and it's not right. I'm a sponsor of the $15 bill, which should be a $20 bill now, $20 minimum wage. I'm a sponsor of the PRO Act, and I work with my unions every step of the way. So those are the type of things that really matter to us. But getting things over the finish line is the key. So while I'm a progressive Democrat, I also work across the aisle in the Senate because, as you all know, until we get rid of the filibuster, which I'm against, of course, we need 60 votes to pass anything. Well, we've got 50 Democrats. I can get them every time. But I need 10 Republicans. Without 10 Republicans, none of our things we want to do can happen. So I'm ranked the 10th most bipartisan member of Congress, 10 out of 535. I go over, I meet people where they are. I don't talk to the crazies. There's 40, 50 crazies that there's no use talking to those crazies on the Republican side because they don't care about doing anything. They just want to burn government down. But you can find other folks that have mental illness in their family, that have addiction in their family, or have been justice impacted, or care about education, care about diseases. So that's what I do. Last year we passed 26 bills signed by President Biden on mental health and addiction alone. The Pell Grant bill, that's my bill, brought Pell Grants back for returning citizens that have been incarcerated. But lobbyists and PACs paid out $1.3 billion the last 2 years. 1.3 billion. I'm not taking their money. I never will. That's how you can act independently. And that's how you can stand for what's right and stand for folks. And I'm lucky that I can do that. Not many folks can do that. But I've been lucky and fortunate, and I know that. So I have an obligation to give back, to make things in a better way. And that's why I've done this. And that's the mission I'm on. It's personal to me. So that's a little bit about us. I'm a true public servant. I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman first and foremost, and I'm a public servant now. And I'd love to get your support, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, thank you very much, Congressman Trone, for that introduction and highlighting some of the areas that are of concern to you, some of the areas that you have worked toward. At this time, I'm going to open up the floor for questions. I would ask that you raise your hand in your chat box. Are there any questions for Congressman Trone?
We recognize Ms. Tanya Sweat.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not going to be rude. I'm going to turn on my camera. Good evening, Congressman Trone. I won't just say it. You already got my support, but I read this week that you have announced you're supporting term limits. If you don't mind, would you talk or expound a little bit on that announcement and share why you decided to publicly announce you're in favor of term limits?
Yeah, I've always felt like term limits would give us fresh ideas, fresh people in Congress that didn't just be there forever, forever, forever. And I think it's important that you be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a policeman, be an electrician, be a plumber. All those are great, great jobs. But we shouldn't just work in government as a politician our whole life. So I come out in support, and certainly going to hold myself to that, to 2 terms in the Senate, 6 terms in the House. We put a proposal for term limits for Supreme Court justices, a set of ethics for Supreme Court justices. We all know we need that. And we also came out strongly against insider stock trading. We'd like to have all members not be able to trade stocks at all, single stocks, and put all their stock holdings in a qualified blind trust. And that way, you didn't come to Washington to get rich.
Hi, I'm on a conference call, community.
You came
Sorry
to
about that, Congressman. Yeah.
Yeah, you came to Washington to make a difference. So we put out a real very detailed plan on term limits. We also are going out against eliminating all PAC and lobbyist money, and also prohibiting members of Congress from becoming lobbyists. 400 members of Congress are lobbyists. So the PACs and the lobbyists pay them $1.3 billion every 2 years. Then they hire them when they get back out. And we wonder why we get the same old, and we don't get better government. So thanks for that question.
Additional questions for Congressman Trone?
Yeah, there was a question in the chat. How can residents help support the term limits bill and other bills that you're speaking of?
Yeah, I think it's really important for you to speak to your member of Congress, your senators, and talk about it in state legislatures, county legislatures. Montgomery County put in term limits for their members of council and the county executive. But we need all of government to be folks that come, they're public servants, and then they go back and do a job and not be a career politician. And so I think all of you have to come together. It's going to take us a long time to make this happen, but it's beginning to happen around the country as different counties and cities are saying, hey, I can't have that same person in office. I mean, they're running for the House of Representatives at, 82, 83, 84 years of age? And they're running? I mean, that's crazy.
Miss Patricia Wallace, I believe, is next. Patricia, your microphone's muted.
Yes, I was trying to unmute myself. Good evening, Congressman Trone. I was wondering what's your view on gun control?
Yeah, our position on gun control is very much like most of us in the Democratic Party. We've got to get rid of 100% all these semi-automatic and automatic weapons. These are weapons of mass murder to kill people. There's nothing to do with hunting or sport with these type of weapons. We have to put in strong other efforts to get ammunition separated from the weapon. We lost 28,000 folks last year to suicide by gun. If those guns weren't available, and that moment a person had anxiety, depression, they wouldn't have pulled the trigger. And the gun suicide is final. When people attempt suicide, often they overdose on pills. And we're saving more and more of those now. They're getting saved because we have medicine to pump the stomach, etc. But a suicide by gun, 28,000 dead. So, we've got to have background checks. We've got to have all the in-state laws. You can't bring a firearm state to state. Why don't we have trigger locks? We have the technology right now to take your fingerprint and put your fingerprint on your gun so only you can shoot that gun. We lose more children, 1 to 5, by accidental firearm deaths than we lose policemen. That's insane. If we had trigger locks with the technologies out there, we could stop that 100%. We could stop that. So the gun lobby, we've got to fight that group. I have an NRA rating of 0. There'll always be a 0 rating, and it's the only rating you could ever have, 0.
Okay, Herb, I believe you're next.
Okay. Yes, Congressman Trone, there's been a lot of discussion in South County about transportation issues, and I wanted to get your thoughts about possibility of the subway system coming across the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, maybe over to the harbor, etc. It seems like to me a no-brainer. It makes good economic sense. I think it would help revitalize this area in terms of transportation, economic development, and work development as well. Down here in South County, there's no real consistent transportation mode other than to jump in your car. And I just want to get your thoughts.
I think, Herb, you're 100% right. South County has been left behind again and again. And, clearly that would make a lot of sense. Public transit is the way to go. I mean, we cannot just continue to build roads. We need public transit, and we're strongly in support of public transit. I was on the Appropriations Committee last year on the subcommittee for transportation, and we had literally all of our bills made sure we had public transit as part of it. But clearly this part has been left behind, as has Baltimore been left behind. I mean, Baltimore, Larry Hogan got rid of the red line, turned down $800 million that would have helped the city of Baltimore with their public transit, just like South County here needs it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question in the chat. How do you feel about community-based nonprofits and grant funding needed to meet the base human needs of families and individuals, especially seniors who are aging in place?
Yeah, I was at a seniors home this morning in Baltimore, and community-based nonprofits, supporting the philanthropic community is really, really important, and supporting our seniors is really important. We got to protect Social Security. We can do that with House Bill 2100. 2100 would raise the FICA tax on those making $140,000 and up. We stop taxing folks on FICA at $140,000, and these older adults, older adults then can't have the security that they're going to have with Social Security. If we did that, we protect Social Security for the next 75 years. But it's the PACs and lobbyists. The wealthy folks block that. I mean, why would someone who makes $1 million not pay FICA on every dollar they make? But someone who makes $50,000, they do pay it on every dollar. That's pretty obviously wrong. But that's what PACs and lobbyists do. So we've got to support our senior communities, and we've got to use the philanthropic community. And I've worked hard on earmarks toward areas where our youth can have a place to go. And our youth that's anywhere from 12, 13, 14, 15, we've built boys and girls clubs in Frederick, Hagerstown, and Cumberland. So our youth, our at-risk youth, have a place to go to read, to maybe play video games, maybe play kickball, maybe play chess, maybe play basketball. But by putting these youth centers in each of the 3 cities in my district, and why don't we have youth centers all over Prince George's County? And so our youth would have a place to go, and maybe our crime situation would be in a lot better spot. And the same thing in Baltimore City. But we can do these things if we have the will.
Mr. Walter Scott, you're next.
Yeah, Congressman Walter Scott. I'd like to go a little bit international. Can you give us a position on where you stand on the two-state solution in Gaza and Israel?
Yeah, we're strongly supportive of the two-state solution. We've been very critical of Netanyahu, who has pushed Israel in a very, very bad direction, and we've called for a ceasefire of the hostage release. So no, thank you for that question. We're running out of time. We can get one or two quick ones. Herb?
Sure. Reverend Dr.
Okay.
Screen.
Yeah, I'd love to answer questions. I hate to be short, but because I love
Understood.
to.
Understood. We'll just take two more and we get you out of here, Congressman.
I got one more event tonight, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah. Reverend Dr. Screen, you're next. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to give the question here. Mr. Trone, I would like to know, first of all, my wife and I own a food resource center that we actually serve about between 400 and 500 individuals a month with food here in the community. But my question actually goes in another direction, something else that my wife and I are part of and some on this panel, and it has to do with traffic safety. And I don't know if this is something that you would have a direct influence on from the Senate seat, but I'll ask the question anyway. What is your position regarding enforcement options for local communities regarding traffic safety? And what specific options would you endorse, promote, and seek funding for?
Yeah, I think overall, whenever we have a chance to make government powerful at the local level, we'll be better off served because local folks know what's not working in their community, and the other local communities know what's not working in their community. So the more independence and we can push down decision making, and I've done that in my company. You know, I have stores in 28 states, but the more I get the folks in Miami making decisions about what's not working in Miami, they'll think differently than what's happening in Boston or Los Angeles. So we support local decision making, but it's not really a federal issue too much in that respect. We don't have a lot of jurisdiction there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have time for one more question.
One question. Let me put my camera on. Thank you very much for your support and coming to our meeting today. The question I had was, Officer Raniker spoke about the teenagers that are frequently stealing cars. And it's a cycle of they steal the car, they get arrested, and then they put right back out on the streets. Do you have any solutions that help, curb, this cycle?
Well, we can't have a system. It's clear as day where you steal, you put out, you steal, you put out, you steal, you put out. There has to be consequences, and we've got to stand up and have those consequences. They've got to know what the consequences are, and they can't be protected forever because they're a teenager if they've committed crime and crime and crime again. But I go back to what we said earlier, the situation is really endemically starts with the education system. If we could get preschool all over this country, if we could get daycare that was helping the kids when they're 2 and 3 years of age, by the time our kids got to 7 and 8, they'd be reading. And these folks, then we look at having these, what I call boys and girls clubs, youth centers, place for folks to go. When teenagers don't have anywhere to go, my dad used to say they get into mischief. But if they have a place to go where they can be together, they can do things that they enjoy together, as I say, whether that's playing chess or that's playing studying or reading a book, playing basketball or kickball or whatever. But these youth centers are a great way to get teenagers with an alternative to going down a really bad road. But they've got to have the education to see a hope. To see a hope of where they're going to have a good job in the future, because a good job is what's so important. And we need our educational system not to be driven only on a liberal arts program, but we need vocational education. Great jobs as plumbers over at IPEW 24, IPEW 26, phenomenal jobs as electricians. There's so many good jobs, and we need folks in these areas, and not everybody wants to study history and literature. So let's go do what you want to do. If you don't love what you do, you will never be good at it. And so let's let them do what they can love to do and not try and pigeonhole people in certain ways, which sometimes I think our educational system is too driven toward liberal arts college when some folks really want to do something different and get a really good job and raise their family. And that's a great day, I think.
Thank you.
Well, Congressman Trone, thank you for this opportunity to share with us. We look forward to having you come back out to our association again. Wish you the best of luck going forward. And thank you.
Oh, I just thank you for having us. And thanks, most importantly, get out there and vote. We can't let that crazy man, Donald Trump, ever get near the White House again.
Okay, though.
You all got to get out there.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks,
Congressman.
guys. Thank you.
Okay, have a good day.